So I saw this article last November, right? And it said Warren Buffett was going to collect 776 million in dividend payouts from Coca-Cola in 2024. That's pretty crazy, right? First of all, how many shares do you actually own for you to make close to 800 million in dividend earnings, right? So I did the math and I did my research, and Warren Buffett owns about 400 million shares in Coca-Cola, right? You heard that right. The second thing is, how much is he averaging per month? And I just did the average. Yes, Coca-Cola makes payouts on a quarterly basis, but the monthly average for Warren Buffett is about $65 million in dividend earnings in 2024 that he made just from one company, Coca-Cola. And this got me curious because I was like, okay, if Warren Buffett could be making close to 800 million per year in dividend earnings, how much does someone need to have in order for you to maybe even just make $1,000 per month in dividend income? So I'm going to walk you through a couple of scenarios in this video on how you can potentially make at least $1,000 per month using dividends. All right. So the first scenario that I'm going to show you is going to be a scenario where you're actually investing in Coca-Cola. It's probably not going to be the most realistic for most of us. And then the other examples, I'll use other ETFs that are popular, and then other ETFs that I think are actually very, very realistic to enable you to achieve the goal. So if you're interested in figuring out how you can make $1,000 per month in dividend income, this is your video. Buckle up. Let's get started. We're going to start by using Coca-Cola for our initial scenario. So their dividend per share annually was $2.04 with a dividend yield of 2.84%. And again, their payouts are every quarter. So we're going to go into the Excel, and the link to that Excel will be in the bio if you want to use it for your own calculations. And we're going to just run the numbers and see how much you need in order for you to have a position on Coca-Cola. All right, so I've covered the other funds that we're going to look into in this presentation, so we're just going to focus on Coca-Cola. So as you can see, Coca-Cola, the current stock price right now is $71, and the dividend yield, as you saw, was 2.85%, with the annual dividend per share at $2. So for you to make $12,000 per year in dividend, you need to have 5,882 shares of Coca-Cola. And if you just do the math, it's about 421,000, right? That you need to actually invest today in order for you to have an annual dividend income from Coca-Cola of $12,000 per year. Now, for a lot of people, this is probably not realistic. So just wanted to call that out. But this is how much you would need to hold in Coca-Cola stock in order for you to make at least $1,000 per month on average, given their current dividend yield on Coca-Cola. Now, the next one we're going to look at is VOO. And VOO is a very popular ETF that many of you know. The current price for VOO is 542, with a dividend yield of 1.29% and an annual dividend of about $7. So based on those numbers, for you to make $12,000 a year in annual dividend income, you need to have 1,722 shares in VOO, which will run you $934,175. So almost about $1 million. So for you to make $12,000 per year in dividend income on VOO, you need to fork out about $1 million today in order for you to have that position. So again, not realistic for a lot of people, but just wanted to give you guys the scenario so that you guys are familiar with what's out there. Now, the next one that I'm going to look into is an ETF by JP Morgan. And it's a very popular ETF, so we're going to dive into it. But before we dive into the numbers, let me just show you some rough facts about this ETF. This ETF is the JP Morgan Premium Equity Income ETF. It has a 8% dividend yield and a $4.49 per share annual dividend payout. They pay out monthly, really strong if you look at it in comparison to others, and really strong dividend growth over the past few years. So this is a solid one. And if you look at the stock price, right now, this would run you about $56.02. And with their dividend yield at 8% and a dividend of about $4.50, for you to make $12,000 per year in dividend, you need to have almost 2,700 shares, which would run you about 150,000. So again, this is somewhat out of reach for the average person, but it's definitely better than VOO, definitely better than Coca-Cola, definitely better than those two. If your primary objective is getting the most dividend income with the least amount of investment. So far out of the three, JEPI is providing you the better option. Now, I'm going to go with the ones that I actually think you need to go with. So the next four that I'm going to share are ETFs from the Yield Max ETF portfolio. And I think this portfolio actually makes it possible for the average person like you and me to actually build a portfolio that can give you about $1,000 per month on average in dividend income. So I'm going to walk you through each scenario for each ETF, and then we'll go from there. So the first one I'm going to share is MSTY, and MSTY had a very strong dividend yield at almost 140%, meaning that, right now the price is about $21, and their annual dividend per share over the last trailing 12 months is over $30. So pretty solid winner, definitely affordable in terms of price. So let's take a look at these numbers. So when we look at Yield Max, right, share price, $21, strong dividend yield, pays out monthly, and over the last 12 months has paid over $30 in dividend income. For you to make an average of $12,000 per year in dividend income, all you need is less than 400 shares. So exactly 397 shares to be precise based on this stock price. So your investment is only 8,620 in order for you to collect, on average, based on those current numbers, $12,000 per year in dividend income. Now, I would rather do this, right, than do this, or this, if my core focus is solely on the dividend income. So let's say today I was to put in this $8,700. Over the next 12 months, because they pay out monthly, I will collect $12,000 in dividend income while I still own the position. So this, to me, is an investment that I think for any savvy person who's trying to build income for the long term should be one you should definitely look into. Now, the next one from the Yield Max ETF portfolio is TSLY. And TSLY is an ETF tracking Tesla. I forgot to mention that MSTY is an ETF that tracks the stock ticker MSTR, which is MicroStrategy. And this Tesla ETF, TSLY, is actually quite cheap. It's less than $10. It's going for $9.56. Again, over 100% dividend yield, pays out monthly, and over the last 12 months, paid out $10.81 in dividends. So for you to make $12,000 in annual dividend income, you need to have about 1,110 shares, which would run you slightly below 11,000. So if you were to invest, 10,612 today to buy this position, over the next 12 months, on average, if the current trends hold, you will be on track to collecting $12,000 in dividend income over the next 12 months. Now, the next one I'm going to share is NVDY. And NVDY is a Yield Max ETF that obviously tracks NVIDIA. And it's currently going for $15.34, has slightly lower dividend yield at 96%, which is quite strong when you compare it to VOO, Coca-Cola, and the JP Morgan ETF. And you can see the total payouts you'd have received over the last 12 months would be close to $15. And for you to make $12,000, you only need 810 shares, which would run you about $12,400. And because the dividend yield is less than 100% for this particular one, that is why your investment in this case would actually be more than what you'd make. But when you compare it to VOO, Coca-Cola, and the JP Morgan ETF, this is actually a pretty solid investment based on the return you're going to make over the next 12 months. And then the last one that I'm going to share is CONY, which essentially is the ETF for Coinbase. Very, very strong dividend yield. In fact, the strongest out of all 7 that we're evaluating right now. It's going for about $9 right now, and you can see you would have collected $13 over the last 12 months in dividend earnings. So for you to make $12,000, which would average $1,000 per month, you only need 898 shares, which is a total investment of $8,000. So if you ask me, if the number one thing that we're focused on is making $12,000 in dividend income, CONY would be my pick, because I would only need to invest $8,110 and then be able to collect $12,000 over the next 12 months. Whereas these ETFs are much better and safer and probably a good bet. For the average person, they're probably out of your budget. So looking into having a fund that's really built around these YieldMax ETFs probably makes sense. Now, YieldMax has a total of, I think, 43 ETFs. And the reason why I picked these 4 is that YieldMax actually separates their ETFs based on groups. So these 4 ETFs from MSTY, TSLY, NVDY, and CONY, they all pay out their dividends on a monthly basis, but they pay out their dividends in different weeks. So essentially, if you were to build a portfolio where you would put 25%, in each, 25% in each, 25% in each, 25% in each, you can essentially build a portfolio where you can be paid dividend income every single month. So what does that mean? So if your goal is to make $12,000 per year, which is about $1,000 per month in dividend income, well, if you're building a portfolio based on these 4, you just need each one to pay you $3,000 per month, because you have the 4, so 3,000 times 4, you essentially then collect 12,000. So if we were to change this goal from 12,000 to 3,000, now you only need 100 shares of MSTY. And then let's take a look at this one. You would only need that. Let's take a look at this one. You would only need that. And let's take a look at this one. You only need that. So if we were to add everything up, right? If we were to add everything up in terms of the total investment you would need, so we add this, and essentially you build your portfolio around these 4, you essentially need $10,000 to build a portfolio that would give you $12,000 in dividend income based on current trends. So for $10,000, if you were to put 2,100 into MSTY, 2,600 into TSLY, 3,100 into NVDY, and 2,000 into CONY, that inevitably would give you $12,000 in annual dividend income, and you'll be on your way. So hope this video helps. And the idea really was to show you a way where you can create a portfolio that really focuses on maxing out your monthly dividend earning potential, and you could collect those dividend payments, reinvest in those same positions, or you can literally just collect the cash and deploy it elsewhere. So If Warren Buffett is focusing on dividend income and he has 400 million shares on Coca-Cola, I think it's worth looking into. Personally, I like going with the yield max ETFs because I'm more focused on maximizing my cash flow. And yes, I do know that they have a higher expense ratio. And I also do know that the capital might depreciate in terms of the value of the share price might depreciate over time. But from my perspective, I'm looking at it from a perspective of how can I invest the least amount of money to maximize my dividend earnings, and then the dividend earnings, I can then use them to offset some of the capital depreciation that I'm gonna get, and also use that money in other areas. Don't forget taxes, right? So whenever you make dividend income, there's gonna be a tax piece that comes into it. So obviously you wanna consult your tax professional to help you with that. So anyway, if you want a link to this Excel sheet, it is in the description. And the formulas are all baked in, and all you just have to do is put in the ticker symbol, put in the price, the yield, the dividend yield, and also the annual dividend per share, and then these numbers will be automatically calculated. So this could be a tool that you can use to help yourself assess and research some of these opportunities out there from a dividend paying ETF and stocks perspective. So I hope this helped. Let me know in the comments, like and share the video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.